Here's something to mull over. And this relates to popular programming. And has to do with, entertainment. So, think of a superhero movie. The first one I thought of just out of the gates was Tobey Maguire playing Spider-Man. Next, I thought of, what was it? Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man. Did I say these right? Tobey Maguire playing Spider-Man. Yeah, and they both have man in it, so probably trip me up. Big surprise. And then, yeah, Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man. Coincidentally, I think, based on these examples, and I didn't choose these out of my brain for this specific reason, and they probably all don't fall into this category, but Robert Downey Jr. is Jewish, and pretty fucking sure so is Tobey Maguire. The reason I mention this is Darwin's famous book, Favored Race. And you should parallel this thought. Mind you, this has to do with eugenics. You know what else has to do with eugenics? Nazi concept of Superman, the Ubermensch. What a fucking coincidence. And some people claim, was Adolf Hitler partially Jewish? It begs a lot of fucking questions if you start thinking about these things and what people are being sold in the programming. Think about it. Just think about it. Not all Jews are bad, but disproportionately, I keep saying, they're supposedly a minority and they're so oppressed. So what do you think the odds are that in terms of a casting process, predominantly speaking, they would land the lead fucking roles of none other than superhero movies? Just think about it. Look at this. What's the ratio of Jewish actors in the Avenger movies? And there's a lot of movies involved in this. Oh, it doesn't tell you on that note. But if you start looking into it, I mean, just off the top of my head, I think Jeremy Renner is too, but I might be wrong. But obviously Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, and look into it. I know, I'm not giving you guys every single fucking name, but there's a lot. There's a lot. I can't remember. Is Mark Ruffalo? Is Mark Ruffalo Jewish? And a lot of these won't tell you either. They just flat out will not tell you. I think Edward Norton's another one that won't tell you. Is Edward Norton Jewish? Or they'll start playing word games and try and sidestep this shit. And they'll say, well, technically based on their faith, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. Something you'll see, and this is another thought you could throw in here. Why not? Let's lump it in. You'll see people who are doing well in Hollywood who don't come from Jewish families marry into Jewish families. The other day I was wasting time on, and I hate this guy, mind you. He stunk of red flags when he first was released on the scene. Andrew W.K. To say I think very little of this guy is a grave understatement. Then he married into a Jewish family with Kate Denning or whatever the fuck her name is. And supposedly there's conspiracy theories associated with this guy. This guy's a waste of fucking time, but I thought I'd mention it because he did marry into a Jewish family, and that factors into what I just said. And that's a product code to return a book. What the fuck do I know? Take another moment and think about characters, biblical characters in this case, specifically Noah. Usually I think of him as being pure in his generations, and I don't remember what the actual translation does. Whoops, I bumped the phone. Translate to, so look it up. You're probably going to get things like righteous or perfect, things along those lines. Regardless, it denotes not being corrupted. This also factors into, why do you think you and I are being sold genetically modified poison? Why do you think that agenda in 2020 was carried out? You don't hear people connecting these dots. You and I are purposely being dumbed down and corrupted So that we're not only more malleable, that's a crap way to put it, but more susceptible to accepting being slave stock on an entirely new scale. Specifically, social credit slavery comes before merging man with machine in absolute and doing away with free will, conscious choices. You're not hooked up to the fucking machine and it's not making choices for you. But you do see early iterations of that with Amazon predicting what you'd like to, buy or sell or fill in the fucking blank and thinking for you, because that is a goal. But you don't hear this come up because people aren't concerned with things like this. I'm talking about two different subjects right now, and usually that loses people. Keep in mind, I'm going through a whole bunch of health stuff. My brain has been a little foggy here and there. It comes in waves. Doing a little better today, kind of. Either way, I'm stringing this shit together, which means some of those kids out there who aren't going through anything even remotely close to this could pull their heads out of their ass, and they could consider this information because it is important. It will impact us. It is already impacting us. But most people are dumb as fuck and they don't care because they've been trained to conduct themselves that way. If you sat through this, thank you for your time and energy. There's always an additional thought when it comes to me. So here's something you're going to find on the internet. Quora is a piece of fucking garbage. It's not as... Wait, it is worse is what I'm trying to say than the revamped Reddit feeds. Unfortunately, Reddit has also been infiltrated and fucked up. So this has to do with Darwin. And if you look up at the top, it's going to say... And keep in mind, I don't know if he did recant this. That's not the point. What he was shopping around doesn't hold water. Doesn't reflect reality. You can't use quote-unquote science to produce a replicable evidence-based, study to prove what he was, purporting. Because it doesn't hold water. It's shit. He was lying to people. That's what these people do. I'm talking about Einstein, Carl Sagan, all those assholes. It's just fucking nonsense. So, pardon me, I'm pouring water. At the top it says, the false story comes from a woman named Elizabeth Reed Cotton, known as Lady Hope. After she married Sir James Hope, she was the one who claimed in an article in 1915, 33 years after Darwin's death, that she visited him the fall before he died in 1881. She claimed he was on his deathbed then. He was not. He did not. Wait. He not did start declining. He did say that, okay, pardon me. He not did start declining until 3 months before he died. She claimed he refuted his theories and wanted her to come to the next day and speak to a group of 30 people about Jesus in a garden house. It could not hold 30 people. All of Darwin's adult children who were actually at his death refuted this idea. Keep in mind, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Darwin's family promoted eugenics. They were advocates for a supreme race of people. Also, bear in mind, they had dogs in this race. They were related to Darwin, so of course they're going to say something, to support the legacy of Darwin. Most likely what Darwin left them also probably financially supported them. They could lean on that. There's a lot of motives behind this. Again, I don't know if he did refute what he said or recount it. I don't know. Recant, pardon me if I didn't say that right. I think I said recount. Yeah. The point is, he stole his working concepts from a dying man in a tent, and I urge you to try to figure out what that guy's name is. Or was. And I'm not talking about the theory of evolution and the shit that you see in the fucking in the programming. Because you are being manipulated. You are being trained to accept shit like that. And people do now. People talk about Darwin. All the pseudo-intellectuals talk about Darwin as if it was a fucking fact. You're not going to see a squirrel turn into a fucking crow. You're not going to see a squirrel turn into something. And that's not how it works. Just like that one day, it's a fucking hippo. After hundreds of years of evolution. It's fucking retarded. man-made abominations maybe, but it's not going to naturally shake out. Slight alterations based on the, environment, and usually that still is a factor of man-made manipulations. Think about it. Just think about birth defects in babies. That shit doesn't naturally happen. But if we're corrupting the system that supports us, that renews itself, that is abundant, there are going to be ramifications. Doesn't mean the baby's going to turn into a hippo. The baby's not going to turn into some fucking other thing. It might suffer through something like elephantitis or, something like that might make it look monstrous, so to speak. But it doesn't change the fact that it has human DNA. Crudely speaking, that's a shit way to put it, but hopefully it gets the point across. Here's what I looked up. Why did Charles Darwin recant on his deathbed? I just wanted to see if it would bring anything up.